Check. 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 Craig, does this sound okay? This is kind of... Okay.
Hello, check, 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 check. It's good. We can hear this. And we can also hear this.
Excellent. Just give us 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Good afternoon, everyone, from COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. It's a pleasure to be with you and with this distinguished panel to talk about a very important issue, the promotion of 24/7 carbon-free energy. My name is Carol Berrigan. I'm with the Nuclear Energy Institute, and it's just a pleasure to be here today, although for my colleagues in the US, this is very, very early, and for those who have flown in today, probably feels very, very early. With that, I want to make just a couple of introductory remarks about 24/7 carbon-free electricity and why it's so important and why my organization, the Nuclear Energy Institute, signed on to the UN 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Compact last year at COP26 in Glasgow. To create a functioning market for carbon-free energy that will enable us to achieve true net zero, that generation must be time and location matched with the demand that needs it. 24/7 CFE creates the necessary market incentives to do that. Nuclear energy is the most reliable zero-carbon energy source available, and nuclear can be a cornerstone for 24/7 carbon-free energy. We cannot make 24/7 CFE, which is what we'll refer to it during the course of this conversation, a reality by focusing on any one company or technology. But today we'll focus a little bit across the spectrum, talk about some exciting announcements and progress on 24/7 CFE, and hear from our distinguished panel about their views. I'm joined today by Andrew Mayock, the Chief Sustainability Officer for the U.S., who works out of the Council for Environmental Quality at the White House, Landon Darrence, who is the new Director of the Global Energy Center at the Atlantic Council, Anna Birchall, who is the Special Envoy from Nuclear Electrica in Romania, and Clayton Scott. Clayton is the Executive Vice President for Business Development at NuScale Power. So with that, let me first turn to Andrew. I understand you have some very exciting announcements out of the U.S. Let me turn to you to hear a little bit about them.
Thank you, Carol. And thank you so much for hosting today. Thank you for pulling together this amazing panel to highlight the critical theme that you just laid out. I'm extremely excited to be here today to provide an announcement with our colleagues and our partners in Washington, D.C., the General Services Administration. As we go into the announcement, I just wanted to provide a quick predicate for that. And that that is that in week one, when President Biden came into office, he launched a whole of government and international effort to address the urgent climate need that we have right now. He, in the mandate and charge that he laid out, one of the key charges was for the federal government itself to lead by example, and lead by example from week one ourselves. And he put out two main mandates in that first executive order on climate change. One was to move the federal government operations to carbon-free electricity, and two was to electrify the global, the federal fleet, which is the largest fleet globally. And we set out to put a plan together according to that mandate. We launched that plan almost a year ago to this date, early December 2021. And the goal and the commitment of that plan was to put U.S. government operations on carbon-free electricity by 2030, with as much as, and hopefully more, of that being 24/7. And so we set that commitment over a year ago, specified that, and the teams have been hard at work, the General Services Administration and the Department of Defense, two of the major actors, to go deliver on that. And we are very excited to announce today that a first big piece of that, which we think could become a model for this work going forward, is the first memorandum of understanding between the General Services Administration and Arkansas Energy for the first 100% 24/7 green tariff. So look forward to Administrator Carnahan speaking to that in the video that we have, and excited to talk about it in the panel. Provides a real opportunity, again, as a model as we go forward to go deliver that on our full goal to get the federal government operations to 100% by 2030, and 50% of that being 24/7. And the role that nuclear plays in it is a key part of the Biden announcement as well, is that we're taking an all-of-the-above approach to hit our carbon-free electricity goal, and nuclear has a very significant role to play in that. So thank you again.
Thank you, Andrew. If we can go ahead and hear from Administrator Carnahan.
Hi, I'm Robin Carnahan, Administrator of the U.S. General Services Administration. I couldn't be more excited to have the chance to speak to y'all today and celebrate this historic step toward our shared and urgent sustainability goals. I want to first thank Ambassador Holgate, Andrew Mayock, and his whole team at the White House Council for Environmental Quality, as well as Sustainable Energy for All and the Nuclear Energy Institute, all for their leadership and partnership. As you all know, the Biden-Harris administration is committed to not only leading by example in tackling climate change, but using our buying power and real estate footprint to move markets, create demand, and catalyze clean energy innovation. This includes an ambitious goal of sourcing 100% carbon pollution-free electricity on a net annual basis by 2030. That includes 50% 24/7 CFE. And as one of the biggest buyers of electricity for the U.S. government, GSA has an outsized role to play in getting there. Every kilowatt hour of 24/7 carbon pollution-free electricity that we buy does three important things. First, it helps create demand for local clean energy. Second, it catalyzes utility-scale energy storage. And third, it helps create a more stable and resilient grid. Over the past year, our GSA team has ramped up a lot to meet this critical moment, reaching out to utilities, expanding and aligning our internal teams and capacity, and exploring new ways to do more clean energy procurement. Today, I'm really proud to announce that these efforts, they're already paying off with the signing of the U.S. government's first ever agreement with the utility company to meet our 100% CFE goal, with the vast majority of that power matched on an hourly basis. Entergy is one of the top 10 electricity suppliers to the U.S. government. And this energy agreement will provide us with power integrated from wind, solar, and nuclear sources. This is the first time GSA has worked with a supplier to weave together all these resources and demonstrate how a 24/7 carbon-free electricity supply can actually be delivered at scale and in a cost-competitive way. In fact, this historic agreement represents one of the first clean energy tariffs in the world to support 24/7 hourly matching of CFE with demand. It's also going to give public and private sector energy users a chance to lock in cost-competitive, predictable rates for carbon pollution-free electricity. We also expect future phases of the agreement to involve investments in energy storage so that we can move even faster toward achieving 100% hourly match carbon-free electricity. Combining these existing and new CFE resources is another first, but I know it's just the beginning of the sort of groundbreaking partnerships that are possible going forward. When it comes to tackling climate change, it's an all-hands-on-deck moment. And that moment demands new approaches and new collaborations, one where utility companies like Energy Arkansas can leverage their existing power generation, and GSA can use its buying power to help federal agencies take advantage of this new offering. And for our friends at DOE and DLA, which also buy a lot of electricity, I look forward to seeing what we can do together to build on this momentum. This is a major achievement for clean energy procurement, and it's a model we look forward to replicating across the country. Clean, affordable, reliable energy where and when people need it. Thank you again, and I hope you all enjoy the panel discussion.
Wow, that's a major announcement in terms of moving decarbonized energy systems forward. That's really something. I understand we also have an announcement from the Idaho National Lab where they're also working to move 24/7 carbon-free energy forward. If you can go ahead and tap in our friends at Idaho National Lab.
Hello, COP27. My name is Leon Topalian, Chair, President, and Chief Executive Officer of Nucor Corporation.
My name is Jansi Kandasamy. I'm the Executive Director for the Net Zero program here at the Idaho National Laboratory. I'm happy to announce that Battelle Energy Alliance is working with the U.S. Department of Energy to achieve net zero carbon emissions at Idaho National Laboratory. Leveraging nuclear, solar, wind, and hydropower can provide INL secure access to 24/7 carbon pollution-free electricity, even as demand from INL's 890 square mile campus increases from approximately 30 megawatts electric to 100 megawatts electric between 2022 and 2030. Micro and small modular reactors could act as a keystone carbon-free electricity source on a diversified grid that integrates intermittent renewables and provides hydrogen for transportation fleets. This kind of collaboration is essential to moving INL and the region and the world to net zero.
These are some terrific announcements so far, really building on some momentum around achieving and implementing 24/7 carbon-free electricity. As NEI, we're also very pleased to announce, in addition to public sector action in this area, additional private sector action in this area, where we are seeing a number of NEI's member companies signing on to the UN Compact. These include NuScale Power, TerraPower, Terrestrial USA, and Westinghouse, which are all major providers and players in the U.S. nuclear industry and very committed to helping decarbonize our energy system through partnerships that deliver 24/7 time-matched electricity. Now, we got a little teaser of another big announcement in this space, and let us go ahead and cue that with a major industrial user who is also signing on to 24/7 carbon-free electricity. If you can go ahead and roll that one.
Hello, COP27. My name is Leon Topalian, Chair, President, and Chief Executive Officer of Nucor Corporation. We are North America's largest steelmaker, the largest recycler of any material in North America, and one of the cleanest steelmakers in the entire world. Over the last 53 years, Nucor has built a sustainable model of recycling steel to produce new steel and steel products. Today, I am really proud to announce Nucor Corporation is joining the United Nations 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Global Compact. As the first major industrial company in the world to join the compact, Nucor will continue to do our part to help lead in the world's transition to 24/7 clean and affordable energy. And we urge other major industrial manufacturers to commit to seeking a 24/7 carbon-free energy future. In order for us to achieve a carbon-free energy future, while also meeting the world's massive and growing demand for energy, we believe it is critical that we embrace all forms of clean, zero-carbon energy sources, from wind, solar, hydro, to nuclear power. That is the reason Nucor made a strategic investment in NuScale Power to promote the further advancement of small modular reactor technology. We believe this technology presents an incredible opportunity to develop a safe, modern, reliable, and affordable zero-carbon nuclear energy future. And we look forward to continuing to support similar carbon-free energy technologies around the world. We'd like to thank the United Nations, Sustainable Energy for All, Google, Microsoft, the Clean Air Task Force, the Nuclear Energy Institute, Ørsted, and the many early signers of this important global 24/7 carbon-free energy compact. Thank you for your leadership on an issue that is critical to the ultimate health of our planet. The green and digital economies around the world are going to be built with steel, and the steel that they're built with matters. We look forward to partnering with you as we march to a 24/7 carbon-free energy future. Thank you, and God bless.
Wow, this is a lot of important announcements here today and really demonstrate growing momentum towards implementing the vision that was laid out at COP26 last year of really Let's see, there we go, we got it back. Decarbonizing energy systems and really moving to this, which is the year of implementation. As we look at implementation, these announcements really will help carry this forward. Let me start with some questions for our panel. We've got a great panel of experts here, and I want to start with Landon. You're new with the Atlantic Council, and the mission of the council is really is shaping the future, the global future together. So really a very global view within the council. With all of the recent geopolitical events that have impacted the Atlantic, how has this impacted the Atlantic Council's view on the future of energy, and where does 24/7 CFE fit in?
Well, Carol, great to be here from the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center. And thank you to NEI and the other partners of Atoms for Climate for hosting this event. I think, when we digest what energy security has been rooted in historically, it is a conversation around supply chains, import dependencies, the haves, the have-nots, and how they're interacting. The solution set historically, and I think continues to be one of diversification routes, diversification of sources, diversification of partners. We're obviously in a global energy crisis today. We have the Russia-Ukraine situation, and it's hard not to contrast that with the 1970s. There are parallels between the oil embargo of the 70s and today. I think, in terms of what a crisis does, is often accelerates energy. It accelerates technology and innovation. I think many in this room will appreciate that actually is really an advent for the nuclear industry overall. And I think that's certainly the case today as we talk to partners throughout the transatlantic partnership about Europe's future and the accelerant that they see that being for a clean energy future on the continent. And certainly Russia-Ukraine harkens to the conventional, traditional pipeline politics that I think we're familiar with. But I think we need to also think about where technology has matured in 50 years. and it's providing a more expansive view of energy security. Diversification now is increasingly about an inclusive suite of technologies, which is broadening the aperture in terms of these ideas of supply chain vulnerabilities and moving away from pressure on traditional conventional oil and gas resources. Of course, this is going to rewrite the map in terms of the key critical players globally, but I think overall it's going to lead to a more energy secure future, and certainly nuclear technology is a part of that suite of options, both in the considerations of its historical role as clean baseload power, but especially as we look at next generation technologies, the ability for advanced reactors to provide dispatchable resources and other aspects that's going to enable a national lab like Idaho that's using nuclear, wind, solar, hydro to have a diversified net zero complex succeed.
Thanks, Landon. I want to pull the thread on something you just talked about, and that was the connection between moving to decarbonizing energy systems and the link to energy security. I know an additional panelist here, Ana Birchel, is from Romania, where energy security is very much front and center, in addition to making commitments to decarbonization. Ana, would wonder if you could share a little bit about how Romania is looking at decarbonization given this energy security connection. And I understand you have a very exciting announcement to share with us as well today.
Yes. Thank you so much, Carol. Very honored and pleased to be here. And as you mentioned, we are proud to announce here at COP27 a new important step in SMR deployment in Romania. Nuclear Electrica's SMR project company, RoPower, and Donalam, a part of the Beltam group, signed an MOU for SMR deployment in Romania and also joined the UN Coalition for 24/7 carbon-free energy. And if I might just in a second, just to explain a little bit, the objective of this MOU is to support the development of the first SMR project in Romania, which could have a great impact also on achieving the production of green steel in Romania, which is a first in Europe. And we are very, very proud of that. And this announcement, I have to say, is following another great announcement that was taking place on November 9 here, where Special Envoy Kerry, the President of the US EXIM, Ms. Rita Zeta-Jones, and our President presented the two letters of interest for financing our two other units, nuclear power plants in Romania. And I have to pay a special tribute to Karen and her team and all the other teams from the other agencies, because this was a great commitment from our side for achieving those goals. Coming back to what is so important, this announcement today and all the discussions, is that by joining the United Nations 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Compact, we are committing to the UN 24/7 principles in support of UN goal, for example, to accelerate clean, affordable energy system. And as you know, one of the principles is supporting development of advanced clean technologies like SMRs. And as Landon and our friend was saying earlier, and you mentioned in your introduction, nuclear, and we are very happy to see that nuclear is taking its role again, is regaining its place, because nuclear is well placed to answer to all the sustainable development goals of the United Nations, protecting the environment, securing jobs, clean and affordable electricity for all, and obviously creating the conditions for economic growth and development of research and innovation. And I am closing by saying, why Romania? Well, I give you at least 5 examples. Why us? Is because along with the US and the support of the US government and the great partnership that we have with NuScale, we are, along with the EU companies, we are promoting the nuclear energy in our region, not ensuring just the independence of Romania or other countries such as Moldova, for example, but being an exporter of energy security in our region. So why us? We have experience, we have the supply chain, we have a great industry regulator, we have the political and public support. We are among 87% public support, but we are not taking it for granted. We are very alert. And we have the engineering school. So all this is showing that Romania is well placed to be a hub for the deployment of the new SMRs. And we very much appreciate the partnership, the great partnership that we have with NewScale in deploying these new technologies in our region, assuring, as you mentioned, the security in our region. And now, with your permission, I'm inviting you to see this and to watch it together, this great announcement that we are very so proud of. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nuclear Electrica, as you know, is committed to deploying Europe's first small modular reactor project, alongside the refurbishment of Chernavoda Unit 1 and the development of Units 3 and 4 at the Chernavoda site, at the highest standards of nuclear safety and environmental sustainability. The expansion of the nuclear capacity aims to support Romania's and regional energy security, energy independence, and reaching its decarbonization targets. In this context, we are happy to announce the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between RoPower Nuclear SA, the recently established project company for the deployment of small modular reactors, and Donalam SRL, part of the Beltrame Group, which is one of the leading European producers of steel. Within the MOU, we will support Beltrame Group to explore the cooperation and investment opportunities in support of the development of the first small modular reactor project in Romania, which could have a great impact also in achieving the production of green steel in Romania, two big firsts for the European landscape.
Thank you very much, Cosmin. I'm also really glad we have reached this important step, this moment of signing of a memorandum of understanding and joining the United Nations 24/7 and Free Energy Compact. It mark a new step in our business approach, so needed in the current general context where energy cost-wise and, of course, source-wise has become topic intensively. Real requirement, common effort, so we are happy to become part of these initiatives. Our group has been in business for over 120 years. Ever since being founded, it has invested in the reduction of energy consumption. Efficiency and reduction of production costs have always been a driver for us to stay competitive. Thanks to this agreement, we will be able to achieve a total purchase of sustainable electricity for the Romania completely behind the grid. That's another important step for our decarbonization. It's not just we are going to make an APA, we are going to buy and feed it directly in our plant. Investment in tomorrow technology have always been for us the solution to stay competitive. We trust technology and we trust in our projects. So thank you very much for calling us.
Easy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carla.
So some more great news and building momentum around 24/7 carbon-free electricity and energy with a strong nuclear component. With that, I'd like to turn to Clayton Scott of NewScale Power. And Clayton, I wonder, NewScale has recently signed on to the UN Compact as well. Can you share with us why NewScale signed on and where you see the value in this compact?
Yeah, thank you, Carol, for having me on the panel. NewScale's mission is to provide scalable advanced nuclear power technology for the production of electricity, process heat, clean water to improve the quality for people around the world. We are changing the power that changes the world to create our energy source with smarter, cleaner, safer, cost-effective power. So our ambitions are clearly in line with the ambitions to provide 24/7 carbon-free energy with the CEC. So it only made sense for us to have this alignment. We think our goals and principles of the compact sign are in line with our mission and the application deployment of our technology. I mean, one of the key principles of the CEC is the advancement of carbon-free technology. And with our Voyager plants, then, we can provide affordable carbon-free energy that complements intermittent renewable generation sources. So to me, it's something that completely makes sense for where we're going and what we want to do, and we see 24/7. And one of the aspects with our design, having multiple modules, even in a fueling cycle, we're still producing 24/7 power at some level. So our contribution is to be there all the time.
Thanks, Clayton. These are really exciting announcements. And to me, what's interesting, there's been a lot of conversation here at the Atoms for Climate booth this last week and again this week about the connection where renewables and nuclear can work together to decarbonize energy systems. And it's great to see announcements like this really building on that momentum. So today's announcements are a pretty big move forward. Andrew, I'm going to turn to you. And Clayton, if you can hand that down this way, it'd be great. Thank you. How do you see these announcements fitting together on your pathway within the U.S. towards 50% 24/7 carbon-free electricity? And what should we be on the lookout for now that these announcements have been made? Where do you see this going in the future?
Great. Yeah, I think these announcements, personify how you started this panel and this segment, Carol, and that this is about implementation. Here we are, not just talking, not just promising, but doing and really taking really profound action. And that's exactly where, from an administration perspective, President Biden pushed us to be, mandated us to be, is focused on action and focused on delivery. And so I think that very much captures that spirit and that charge. And then I think from where we go from here, it's all about gaining the momentum that we're starting to build and really accelerating. So as we go into 2023, building off of these announcements, what we would plan to see and hope to see is a lot more. Because as we all know, to get to, from an administration perspective, our goal of 100% by 2030, where we're at 40% right now, basically grid, we got to move, and we got to move rapidly. And it's only through these types of efforts that we're going to get there. So I think this is just a really dramatic showing of the kind of force and the kind of critical mass that we need to get where we're going.
Thank you. Now let me turn to Landon for a follow-up question on our first conversation. What trends are you seeing as you're looking globally towards decarbonizing the electricity sector? And what approaches are you seeing as the most impactful as we're now talking about implementation, not just commitments?
Sure. Thanks, Carol. Building on this theme of energy security and the suite of technologies that's out there, I think, the one thing that's really true is that a lot of the global goals are starting to fall in place in much more harmony. I think you're seeing energy security and decarbonization and climate change all working towards a similar end. And I think, if there is a takeaway, building on what Andrew just said in terms of the inclusivity and observation from COP overall in this past week is industry has showed up, is being solution oriented, and is, as we're witnessing right now, talking about key deliverables and achieving our net zero ambitions. When you talk about drivers globally that are key and that I have on my mind for where we go in the future, I think we have to appreciate that energy demand growth is still expanding rapidly. Emerging market growth, we're on the continent of Africa here, is one of the major drivers of that, and per capita energy demand associated with it is going to outpace energy efficiency alone from the OECD economies in principle. So we need to be looking at a really inclusive suite of technologies, and I think we have to have an appreciation that not each technology is, or maybe another way to put this, so it's not a double negative, that each technology is going to have an application for the varying situation for different economies, for different geographical locations, for existing infrastructure, and we should be looking at that. So not to give Idaho National Lab too many pats on the back, but it is exciting for a laboratory known for its nuclear advancements to be talking about its collaboration with wind resources, with solar resources, et cetera. One more observation. I had the opportunity to go to a chamber event on Saturday, and Special Envoy, Presidential Envoy Kerry, Secretary Kerry, greeted the audience and had some remarks. And two remarks stood out to me. One, he raised the issue of the Inflation Reduction Act and how transformative that is in the context of the United States, both credibility, but also in climate, but also the transformative aspect over the next decade that the U.S. energy sector is going to experience. I think the key takeaway on the IRA is it's an incentive-based program, and that when we're looking at carbon-free electricity, being all of the above and providing an option to address those emissions and give industry and public-private partnership an opportunity to advance those technologies is absolutely critical. The second part, and going back to the context of being in Africa, going to the Middle East for the next COP, I think is one around MDB reform, and he did raise that as well. And so I do think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of unlocking the capital that is necessary to realize this future. So those would be the trends that I'm looking for. Really excited to see the momentum that's already happening here at COP27.
Thanks, Landon. Now, Anna, let me turn back to you and sort of zooming out from the focus on nuclear electrica and your terrific announcement here today. Can you give us a little sense more broadly in Romania how the country is looking at decarbonizing its electricity system and how things like 24/7 CFE may have an impact on how people are thinking about electricity?
Well, Carol, as I was saying, Romania has a very intelligent, wise strategy when it comes to the energy. We took very courageous decisions to have a good energy mix. We are among the very few countries in our region who is very independent. I mean, we don't depend on other sources of gas. We took the decision to go with the North American technology for the large reactors, or the CANDU. We are now in the process of refurbishing the Unit 1. We are building the Units 3 and 4, and that's why the announcement with $3.5 billion from the US Exim is helping us going ahead with that. And obviously, we took a very courageous decision to partner with NewScale to be the one to have the first deployment in Europe. And we took those decisions a few years back, and we are now in an advanced, an advanced roadmap, an action plan that we put it in action. We is not, as Andrew was saying, is not just talking; it's actually delivering. So practically, all in all, is showing that we are committed to the objectives of decarbonization, where nuclear, as you know, is playing a huge, important role. But likewise, as I was mentioning in my intervention, we are well placed, and I'm inviting you to look at us, to look at Nuclear Electrica for what we stand for, because we are the only one in the region with more than 26 years of operating in the safest, at the highest level. And we could be a very good catalyst for the new technologies deployment in the region. We can, and as you're mentioning that the energy is a security, we aim to be the regional provider of energy security. And here I have to say that we couldn't have done this without the US support, because US is looking at our region not just from the commercial point of view when it comes to the companies, supporting the companies, which is important, but likewise is looking from the strategic point of view of helping us to have that independence and security in terms of the energy. So practically, as I said, look at us. We have great track record where we could actually share from our experience, but likewise from our commitment, which is real. And I give you all the example of all those steps that we've been taking over the years to show the commitment of decarbonization and meeting and respecting the principles of the 24/7 UN principles. And thank you again for putting this together. It couldn't be more timely. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. And Clayton, let me now turn to you. In addition to working with partners in Romania you're engaging in markets around the world. Can you share with us how you see initiatives like 24/7 CFE impacting the thinking in those markets? And what are you engaging in the commercial sense?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, by accounting for availability and the location of the energy sources, the 24/7 carbon-free energy procurement focuses on factors that really reflect on the real needs, real energy demands for a desired end state, such as reliable, affordable, fully decarbonized electricity. Now, if you look at the old approach of renewable energy credits, led many to believe that they were actually 100% carbon-free, but in fact they weren't, because they were realizing heavily on, fossil fuel generating plants to compensate for when the sun didn't shine and the wind didn't blow. So it was kind of a falsehood. So, it's important that we try to transition to something that is more sustainable. Going to a fully decarbonized electricity sector is possible with our type of technology. It's dispatchable, it's affordable, it's carbon-free. One of the critical things that recently we obtained was our emergency planning zone, our approval from the NRC for the methodology on how we take credit for our emergency planning zone at boundary versus a typical site, traditional site at 10 miles, now allows us to put our plant at the asset. So it changes the dynamic. It allows us to be in a lot more different places. It allows us to be easily placed on a coal site refurbishment. It allows us to be close to a hydrogen plant. So the 24/7 abilities are now expanded because of the ability to shrink that down and to have a completely safe zone. So that's how we see it.
Thanks, Clayton. So I'm going to ask a general question to the entire panel, but Andrew, for you, I'm going to tweak it a little bit because you just got here. I'd really like to shift our conversation to hope, and hope that we're seeing here from COP, from engagement from COP26, now to COP27 and implementation. And for Andrew, I'd like to ask you, what are you hoping to see while you are here at COP that will really show you that we're going to accomplish and deliver the things that we're talking about? And then for the rest of the panelists who've been here for a little bit longer, what are the things that you're seeing around COP, not just here in the Atoms for Climate booth, but in other pavilions and the rest of the conversation that's happening here, that's giving you hope that will make the kinds of progress needed to avert the worst outcomes of climate change?
That's a great question, and I'm excited to answer it. In that, again, as you kicked off, and all the panelists have discussed, is this being a big focus on implementation and action. My assessment of the situation, domestically as well as internationally, while complex and urgent and difficult as climate impacts add up, clearly, it is a time when we're actually moving from hope to change and hope to implementation. And from a domestic perspective in the United States, that couldn't be more personified by the kind of action that's occurred here in 2022 and 2023. Today is the first anniversary of the bipartisan infrastructure law, $1.2 trillion into the system for this kind of work, followed by the CHIPS Act in the United States, and then followed by the Inflation Reduction Act. So an enormous amount of incredibly necessary capital flowing into the system to deliver the kind of change and deliver the kind of implementation that we're talking about. So I feel like we've been doing a lot of hoping for a number of years, and some intense hoping over the past year, and now we're in this moment of action. Now we're in this moment of real change, and so I'm less focused on hope these days, and more focused on deploy, deploy, deploy. I guess if I had to answer a question, my hope would be that this extraordinary down payment that's occurred in the last year is followed by not only the acceleration through delivery, but the additional capital that will need to come to really address the change that we need to fight the impacts of climate that are present and coming.
Well, let me pick up where Andrew just stopped. An observation over the past week of being here at COP27, this is in fact my first COP. And I think sometimes when you have a first, it draws out the conversation of who else's first COP is this. I believe, nuclear energy, for example, and having an actual pavilion for Atoms for Climate is novel. Having industry at the front of the conversation and being solution-oriented is present. And we moved past this debate that, I think of 2 decades ago of, is there an energy transition, is there not? And there's a broad acceptance that there is an energy transition. Now that takes, I think, on different terminology for where you are. I think the African continent, I've heard from partners here, that it's less of a transition and it's more of a transformation because they need energy first. But irrespective, industry is showing up across the board in all sectors and demonstrating that they're here to be part of the solution-oriented set to solve this global challenge. GE, for example, introduced a hydrogen pilot project into the gas turbine plant here in Sharm el-Sheikh. And so you're seeing announcements across the board where other companies are making this similar progress. So I'm incredibly hopeful that we're moving into a new phase where pulling a line from my former boss at DOE International Affairs, Andrew Light, that the bazaar inside of the bazaar is becoming highly productive with industry. So you have the of course, traditional conversation around government negotiations, but the dialogue around the margins is increasing in its effectiveness with this inclusivity and the industry being a part of the conversation.
Thank you so much. Well, I think I'm full of hope, but likewise confident. I'm going home confident because I see that the commitment is real, and is real both in terms of the political commitment from the highest level, but likewise is the commitment of deploying, as Andrew was saying, in terms of implementation. And we've been showing, including with the announcements of today, that we are following through. And we realize that, energy is a basic human right. And by looking at the energy, you need to assure that access to the energy all over the world. And from the nuclear point of view, I am very happy and confident and very pleased to see that nuclear is regaining its place. And this is not political talking, it's science, because it's been proven to be one of the most reliable sources of energy, and likewise one of the cleanest sources of energy, with tremendous benefits if we are talking about the hydrogen or the implications on the health, for example. I'm going home, as I think all of us from the room, hopeful, but likewise full of energy, energized, and trustful that the best is yet to come. But great steps has been put and laid down at this special COP, where again energy and nuclear energy is being at the forefront of discussions, showing the benefits. And from that point of view, we are very pleased. And as I said, and I'm closing by saying, particularly for our region, when you look at the Black Sea region, the strong engagement of the United States, it's tremendous for us beyond words, because it's helping us in providing that energy security and independence that is so much needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. So one of the things I've noticed is when I go into the different pavilions, and when I explain that I'm a nuclear technology, I'm not escorted out this time. So that's encouraging. So they actually want to learn more. And more importantly, it's not even the discussion around what does your technology do, but it's how fast can we build it? How fast can we put this in our system? And that is a fundamental change that I've seen, because it never used to be the case. And nuclear is the cleanest energy that nobody wants to talk about. And I think people are actually now talking about it, and it's about time. So it's encouraging to see everybody having that interest it's a push. I look forward to 28 in Dubai because I think it's just going to increase. And with all of these engagements, announcements, even at the highest levels politically around the world, it's truly becoming a path of the future. So I look forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks. I can share with you my sort of view, having gone to my first COP last year in Glasgow. And there was a nuclear presence there, although small, very energetic young people from around the world talking about nuclear energy and how it can be part of the solution to climate. And just seeing the difference this year about how much the conversation about decarbonization, inclusive of technologies, not what I'd call tribal about technologies. So really looking at the end results of decarbonization and all of the tools that are in the toolkit to achieve that, including renewables, wind and solar and hydro and nuclear and hydrogen and others, has been incredibly exciting to see a solution implementation oriented conversation taking place. Just a real change in the conversation. The other thing that I think is interesting, Clayton, and that I've noticed is exactly what you've said, is that people want to talk about solutions, they want to talk about how quickly change can be made, and want to talk about what's needed to enable and unlock that change. So a very different conversation sort of happening I've witnessed out, throughout the pavilions and conversations. So it's been really heartening to see that we're focused on the end goal, and industry is coming forward with that across all sectors. So to me, very hopeful and positive.
And if I just add, because talking about implementation, the financing is important, Carol, and I need to pay tribute to Jessica here, because we've been battling to include nuclear in the taxonomy at the EU level, which is a great instrument for financing, because in terms of deployment and implementation, financing it's really important as well. So you can see the circle closing down, and all we need now, and we'll be very happy next year at your panel to report what steps and what progress we've been doing for a year and for years to come.
So Anna, you are one step ahead of me as usual, because my last question for each panelist is to talk about looking forward between here and Dubai, which is a year from now. Financing, of course, is going to be critically important to implement all of these clean technologies. Nuclear, renewables, expanding transmission, energy storage, all of it will require funding and financing. So I'd like to turn to each panelist and give you sort of a last, minute to talk about looking forward the next year as we think about COP28 in Dubai. What do you hope to be able to report by the time we get there, and what do you see as sort of the stretch goals for all of us as we work to decarbonize?
Yeah, sticking with the implementation and action theme, as I noted, the U.S. government our operations is the largest electricity consumer in the United States at 54 terawatt hours a year. We have the opportunity to move our current 40% carbon-free electricity to as high as 60% before the end of 2024. So building on today's announcements and working with our other 329 utility partners, I think a challenge for them is to help meet that ambition like we're showing today with our Arkansas Energy partners and the General Services Administration, is how many more 100% 24/7 CFE tariffs can we come up with between now and then to help accelerate that, maybe even hit our next 20 percentage points earlier than 2024. So I think seeing that kind of action, again, utilizing today's announcement as a model and utilizing this all-in approach, nuclear included, is a way to go accelerate and a way to go to deliver and a way to show a lot of progress 1 year from now.
Carol, to draw on your conversation of the end of tribalism, I think what I'm seeing here on the ground right now are a lot of minds coming together collectively to identify the problem sets that we need to address over the next year. And so by the new year, when you look at hard to debate sectors, I think the First Movers Coalition and others, for example, are going to have benchmarks of what they need to achieve to decarbonize hard to abate sectors. What's the demand signal that's going to build out the industrial base that supports the technologies that's going to enable them to do that? I think you're going to see that on methane as well, and different sectoral aspects. But I think the novelty next year, in the context of the COP28 in Dubai, is going to be one of inclusivity. So we now have industry at the table, but it's now going to be not just the energy sector solving an energy problem. It's going to be energy, finance, tech, others all coming together to say, okay, that is the problem. How do we, as the aggregate community, broaden this out and resolve this together? And so that would be my looking forward to COP28. I think you can watch a lot more cross-pollination between different sectors of industry resolving some of these global challenges.
Thank you so much. So on a general level, I would like to see the continuing role of the nuclear that is playing in securing the energy all over the world. And from that point of view, people like you, Carol, and your institute are instrumental to educate and to promote the benefits of the nuclear, because it's all about science. So I would really love to see that. And to combine the fake news, all the manipulation that probably will continue to go against the nuclear. So that will be one. And from the Romanian point of view, generally speaking, to better know the amazing role that my country can play in our region as a hub for energy security provider, not just for the nuclear, but with nuclear being at the forefront, where in partnership with NewScale we can deploy in our region, but beyond our region on the Three Seas region as well. And from the nuclear point of view, nuclear electrica point of view, to really see our role as it is as one of the safest operators in the world, and certainly the one in the region, where we can share from our experience, where we will have a simulator with NewScale at our university, so where we could share our experience. We can help to really train the future specialists in this industry, and to really be that catalyst in our region. So those will be the things, a few things that I would like to report, and then to really draw on our great experience of this COP and build it for the future, because it's always important to learn from the lessons from the past to build your future, and to build the present and the future. And I think the nuclear industry, it has a really great future. But I will add one final thought. I think it needs to be, from now until next year, and maybe next year we should report that the financial institutions are understanding the importance of financing those projects, because they are costly at the beginning, but in the end, when you look, they are paying off, because nuclear is one of the cheapest sources of energy when it comes to looking at the overall. So from that point of view, maybe a little bit of a push from the industry to the financial institutions to really understand and put it in their mix of financing, to look at financing the projects on the nuclear as well. Thank you.
So, as you stated, Carol, you saw an increase in nuclear here compared to COP26. Clearly, we're the 24/7 solution for carbon-free energy. Nuclear has to be in the mix. But if we want to be part of it, we have to show up. So I'm hoping next year nuclear has a significant presence at COP, and I think it's our responsibility collectively to encourage our partners in this sector to be showing up, pushing, driving, and putting our position where it should be, because even though we walk around and we see it's a better reception, it still needs to be stronger, because it's no longer the dark evil thing that we shouldn't look at. It's truly the green solution of the future. So I'm hoping to see that. From a financing perspective, I do see positive, because not only are the larger institutions at the government level starting to open their eyes and contribute a little bit more, we're also seeing a lot more movement in the private sector. The VCs and the private investors are looking at this. Now you have 4, I think, pure technology, nuclear technology companies that are publicly traded companies, us being one. So the market is changing, and there's other ways for people to see the investment. So only exciting things to see next year in Dubai.
Thanks, and a quick add-on, both an add-on and a bit of an advertisement, in that in what we'd like to see this time next year. This Thursday, we're hosting at the U.S. Pavilion an announcement regarding other countries that are coming to the same commitment for decarbonizing their national operations, including their electricity consumption, by 2050. So we'll be joined by at least 15 other countries at the U.S. Pavilion this Thursday, and providing some more detail on that. And so one of the things I'm hoping for by this time next year is that number of 15 countries moves up to 25, 50, maybe includes Romania, and that on our electricity front, we're doing what this panel is saying and what I mentioned earlier. So not only from a U.S. perspective, rapidly accelerating carbon-free energy consumption, but also through this all-of-the-above strategy in the United States and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And with that, this panel is going to come to a conclusion. I'm really excited with all of the intention and the momentum that's building, the focus on implementation, the focus on having an impact, the focus on taking tangible steps and making tangible commitments to help decarbonize our energy sector. And thanks to all of the folks who have been behind the UN 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Compact. That's provided tremendous support and momentum, and an opportunity for folks to come together around really decarbonizing our energy system. So with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you.